Good day everyone. So today we will discuss about history, bringing the past to present. So I will report this topic together with Ella May Jantan, Nora Rebanal, and Valenjoy Agron. So first, let me present you our objectives. Number 1, define history. Second, enumerate and explain the reasons why we need to study history. And last, reflect on the failure and success in the significant events happened in the Philippines. So, here are the reasons for the study of history. Well, others say that history is just a history. History is not important, but this topic tells us that history is really important to our daily life. So it is important for us to study history since history helps us to understand and know the nature and cultural roots of the people. Other people always judging about the physical appearance and of course the culture of an individual. Well, hindi naman talaga mawawala yung mga masasabi ng ibang tao about sa kung ano yung nakagawian mo. So, sa pag-aaral ng history, ay maintindihan natin kung bakit ganyan yung nakagawian ng isang tao. Na bakit ganyan yung mga kinakain niya, ba't ganyan siya manamit, at kung bakit mayroon siyang ganyang pag-uugali. So, dito, maintindihan natin ang lahat ng ito sa pag-aaral ng history. Then, the second one is understanding an event in state formation. So, andito na to sa pag-aaral ng history. Maintindihan natin kung bakit merong malalakas na bansa or kung bakit mayroong mga maimpluwensyang bansa na kung titingnan natin sa history ay talagang malakas na yung bansa or yung forces nila noon pa man. Then finding the causes of economic problem. Well, for example, dito lang sa Philippines, so nagkakaroon tayo ng problema sa ekonomiya na merong corruption na nangyayari. Na kung titingnan na naman natin sa history, talagang may pinagmulan talaga. Next is knowing the current of foreign influences in the history of the country. So with history, malalaman natin yung iba't ibang impluwensya ng mga foreigner sa ating mga kababayan. Hindi naman mawawala yun since yung bansa natin ay ilang beses sinakop ng mga dayuhan. Then, kung ano yung mga nakagawian ng mga dayuhang pumupunta sa atin is na-adapt natin. The next is comprehending internal conflicts. So, hindi lang outside, no? Hindi lang conflict about foreigners or yung mga sumakop na dayuhan sa atin. So, malalaman din natin sa history yung kung ano yung mga problemang kinaharap ng bawat Pilipino against sa kapwa nila Filipino. Well, may mga kilala tayong mga bayani kung saan yung tumapos sa kanilang buhay is yung kapwa din nilang Filipino. Next is appreciating the role of historical figures. So sa history, mapa-villain man yan or heroes, talagang may ambag sila. So sinasabi nga dito na yung role ng historical figures ay nagbibigay flavor sa nakaraan natin. The next, viewing the institutional changes. So sa pag-aaral ng history, may kita natin na yung mga nakagawian ng iba't ibang tao, ng mamamayan, ay talagang nagbabago kahit paunti-unti man yan. May kita natin na sa history, may mga certain events na talagang nagpabago or nagpa-decide sa bawat tao na baguhin kung ano yung mga nakagawian nila para mag-survive sila. Sa pag-aaral ng history ay malalaman din natin yung mga important events na nangyari sa bansa natin. So, malalaman din natin dyan yung the Great Expeditions in the Philippines. So, unang-una, Ferdinand Magellan, a Portuguese, who sailed for Spain to find the Spice Islands. So, andyan din yan kung saan pangunahing goal nga ni Magellan, aside from pagpapalaganap ng Kristyanismo, is to makahanap ng spices. Then second is the expedition of Roy Lopez Villalobos was the attempt of King Carlos I of Spain to violate the rights of Portugal to the Spice Islands. So dito nga rin yung time kung saan pinangalan ng Pilipinas yung bansa natin. So sa time niya ni Roy Lopez Villalobos. Then third is the King of Spain, Philip II, sent Miguel Lopez de Legazpi to the archipelago to discover a trade route to the Spice Island. So, bago pa man kumbaga, sa time ni Lopez de Legazpi, inangkin na talaga ng Spain yung Philippines. Kung saan 'di ba na-discover pa nga lang nung una ni Ferdinand Magellan, then sa time nito ni Lopez de Legazpi, sinakop talaga nila the Philippine land and climate. So in this slide, I will show you the features of the Philippines. Philippines is an archipelago above the equator. It is a tropical country composed of 7,100 islands, which has a land area of 114,830 square miles. So the largest islands in Philippines are Luzon, Mindanao, Samar, and Panay. The coastline of the islands is 11,000 statute miles. The highest peak in the Philippines is Mount Apo in Mindanao, which is 9,600 feet high. The longest mountain range is Sierra Madre from Cagayan Province in the north and Quezon Province in the south. So, eto mga features na to ay napag-aralan naman natin nung high school pa tayo. The next is people and the culture of the Philippines. 1. Early inhabitants were Malay and Indonesian. So, hindi talaga tayo yung unang tumira dito sa lugar na to. Then second, indigenous people were Aitas and the number of small tribes in part of the main islands in archipelago. So here in Antipolo, may indigenous people tayo like the Dumagat tribes. Then pangatlo, the Filipino family is paternal in authority but maternal in household management. So ito ay nakatatak na sa kultura natin na yung tatay yung nagtatrabaho, then sa household management naman is yung nanay or yung babae. Then early inhabitants were animist and believe in nature worships. So ito yung mga taong naniniwala sa ang lahat ng mga bagay dito sa mundo like lupa, or mga bato or mga bagay ay sinasamba nila since naniniwala sila na meron ditong espiritu. Then, first religion is Islam was bought by Malays in 14th century. So, bago pa man na magkaroon ng Catholicism na dinala sa atin ng mga Spaniards, meron na tayong religion na Islam. So, here are the weaknesses of Spanish rules. First is hazy state and church separation since parang nagkakampihan na din minsan yung mga praile and yung mga soldier ng Spain. Then unclear official prerogatives of government officials. So meron din kasing right or privilege yung mga kilalang mga personalidad noon. Then inequality of people before the law. So meron talagang kinakampihan yung mga ginagawang batas ng mga Spaniards. Then inequality in taxation. So dito na gumagamit ng mga pang-aabuso yung Spaniards sa mga Pilipino gamit yung tax. Then forced labor. Then non-payment by government of its accounts to the people. Encouragement of popular extravagance, lack of education opportunity since iniisip ng mga Spaniards na pwedeng magamit ng mga Pilipino yung edukasyon laban sa kanila. Meron naman talagang binibigyan nila ng edukasyon basta pabor sa kanila. Like dapat yung mga Pilipino may kakayahan na makakuha ng edukasyon. Since pera-pera yan, so kikita yung mga Spaniards. Then, friar lands. Dito nga nagkakaroon na ng mga ari-arian ng mga lupain, yung mga praile. Then, compulsory conscription to military service. So, dito rin papasok na yung issue na yung mga Spaniards kumukuha ng mga forces din sa mga Filipino. Like for example, hindi naman talaga 'di ba hindi naman talaga Spaniards yung mga bumaril kay Rizal noon. Since na makikita natin sa history na mga Pilipino din yung mga bumaril kay Rizal. Kahit naman sabihin na ayaw nila barilin si Rizal noon, wala rin silang magagawa since na kapalit nun ay yung buhay nila. Kasi yung mga baril noon ng mga Espanyol is nakatutok din sa likuran nila. Why Philippine failed revolts? So unang-una, lack of preparation. So ito yung mga issue na minsan lumalaban na or nagre-revolt na yung mga Pilipino noon kahit hindi pa sila masyadong prepared. Pero isang beses na na tinanong si Rizal na kung magre-revolt na sila, pero ang sabi lang ni Rizal na hindi pa prepared yung Pilipinas. Then lack of united action. Hindi gaanong napagplanuhan na umaksyon sila ng sabay-sabay. Minsan meron pang nagkakamali ng kilos. Then dun pa lang bumabagsak na yung mga revolts or nagfe-fail. Then widespread illiteracy. So ito nga yung yung issue na kasi 'di ba hindi lahat ng Pilipino is edukado. Since mahirap sa kanila noon na makapag-aral. Then lack of armaments. Yung mga Pilipino hindi gaanong advance or minsan wala pa nga silang armas. So issue talaga sa revolt ng Philippines yung kakulangan ng armas. Then Filipinos spied on each other. So meron talagang nangyayaring selosan sa mga Pilipino noon kung kaya't nagkakaroon sila ng internal conflict like yung issue ni Andres Bonifacio, then ni Emilio Aguinaldo. So itong issue na to is yun nga yung mas maraming ondebang bumoto kay Andres Bonifacio bilang maging leader ng mga Pilipino noon. Pero ang sabi naman ni Aguinaldo is ayaw niya kasi nga etong si Andres Bonifacio ay hindi napagtapos. Kumbaga wala siyang tiwala. Then poor mobilization. So dahil nga sa mga nangyayaring solusyon noon, hindi nagiging matagumpay yung revolt ng mga Pilipino. Since meron nga silang problema sa leader or minsan etong si leader, kung hindi niya mapapasunod yung mga nasasakupan niya, mag-fail talaga yung pinaplano nilang revolution. So isa lang to sa mga maaari nating maintindihan kapag pinag-aaralan natin or pag-aaralan natin yung history. Kahit sabihin man natin na boring yung history, ay di pa rin naman natin maaalis yung reality na maaari tayong makakuha ng solusyon based on our history.
Although hindi naging matagumpay yung revolution na ginawa ng mga Filipino, napaka-importante pa rin ng action na ipinakita nila upang may pamukha sa mga Spanish or sa Spaniard na hindi naging maganda ang epekto ng rules nila towards the native Filipino and naging abusive sila. So, here are the most important uprising or mga tao na involved. Si Magalat, Bancao, Sumoroy of Palapag, Francisco Maniego, Andres Malong, Francisco Dagohoy of Bohol, Diego Silang, Juan de la Cruz, Clarice of Pangasinan, Herman Puli, and Apolinario de la Cruz. First is si Magalat. He was a native of Cagayan. So the reason why he revolted is the abusive treatment of the natives by the Spanish garrison. Si Bancao naman, isa siyang chieftain ng Limasawa. Ginibap niya yung Christianity and returned to his old religion. So namatay siya sa pakikipaglaban sa mga army ng Cebuanos commanded by the Spanish officer. Si Sumoroy of Palapag naman, hininto niya yung pagsisend ng mga natives from Samar to work in the Cavite shipwrecks. So nagkaroon din ng matagumpay na revolution siya na natalo niya yung Spaniards sa battle noong 1649. And umabot sa Mindanao and Bicol yung revolution. Ngunit in 1950, natalo si Sumoroy in a large army of Filipino soldiers under the Spanish officers. Si Francisco Maniego naman, pinangunahan niya yung mga Pampangos to rebel in 1660 against Spanish rule. Hininto niya yung pakikipagkalakalan sa Manila. So, nanghina lang yung cost niya dahil sa isang chieftain ng Arayat na nakiayon dun sa Spaniards. So, Maniego agreed to cease hostilities when the Spaniard assured him that his men were to be pardoned. So, Maniego gave up due to action of this chieftain of Arayat. So, si Andres Malong naman, yung mga tauhan niya ay pinakalat niya sa iba't ibang lugar upang doon magkaroon ng revolts. So, yung pag-decrease ng forces niya sa iba't ibang lugar, ayun yung naging way upang matalo sila ng Spaniard. Si Francisco Dagohoy of Bohol naman, siya yung may pinakamahabang revolt na ginawa against Spain. It lasted for 84 years from 1744 to 1828. So yung dahilan kung bakit siya nag-revolt is one of the reason is yung refusal ng Spanish friars to give Christian burial to Filipinos dahil ang kapatid niya isang faithful Christian but Spanish friars refused to give him a Christian burial. So natalo si Dagohoy under the command of his follower after his death. So, yung Spanish Army din yung naging dahilan ng pagkamatay ni Francisco Dagohoy sa kamay ng Filipino soldiers. Si Diego Silang naman, he opposed the payment of tribute, pumanig siya sa British, kaya inassassinate siya, katulad din ni Magalat. Si Juan de la Cruz Polaris of Pangasinan naman, katulad ni Diego Silang, yung tribute din yung naging reason kung bakit siya nakipag-revolt or nag-take revolt. Si Herman Pule or Apolinario de la Cruz naman, he led a revolt sa Quezon Province naman. Gumawa siya or nag-organize siya ng isang religious brotherhood after hindi siya i-allow ng mga friars na mag-aral ng priesthood dahil sa isa siyang Filipino. So, yung organization na ginawa niya ay yung Cofradia de San Jose, and hindi rin ni-recognize ng Spaniard yung organization na to. So, yung mga tinuturo niya doon sa organization na yun is puro against the Spaniard. So, marami siyang naging follower. Natalo siya under ng Spanish din sa Sabang, and execute siya doon. Filipino become frustrated over many rebellion failures na nangyari. And naisip nila na baka under the Spanish rule, there are chance na magkaroon pa din ng reform rather than revolt. So, these are the important action for reform. So, the movement of provincial status, Philippine representation in the Spanish Cortes, entry of more Filipinos to priesthood, grant of right to vote, freedom of communication, equality of Spaniard and Filipinos before the law, education for the natives, and abolition of tithing. So, the movement for provincial status, they think na there are possible na maging Spanish citizen sila. So, naisip nila baka maging province din ng Spain ang Pilipinas. This thinking was contrary to nationalism. So, next is the Philippine representation in the Spanish Cortes. Gusto nila magkaroon ng part sa Spanish legislature or sa korte. And then, the entry of more Filipinos to priesthood, dahil nga limited lang yung nakakapasok sa pagpipriest, pagpapraile, they admitted were mestizos and were subjected to very strict screening dahil limitado lang yung pinapapasok nila sa pagpapare. Grant of the right to vote, dahil gusto rin nilang ma-exercise yung pagboto nila sa mga official na ma-appoint, dahil nagiging unfair sa mga Pilipino yung qualification bilang official, dahil mas nami-measure yung term of usefulness ng Spanish rule rather than sa general welfare ng mga Filipino. Freedom of communication naman, dahil nga kapag nagkakaroon ng assembly ang mga Filipino, pinagsususpetsahan agad sila na gumagawa ng plano against the government. Equality of Spaniard and Filipinos before the law, dahil nga yung mga Pilipino, iba yung trato against Filipino. So, yung the natives and the mestizos were treated as lesser individual before the court. So, mas prioritize ang mga Spaniard. So, education for the natives naman, they want access to education para sa mga native Filipinos. So, yung mga Spaniard naman, niisip nila kapag nagkaroon ng more education sa mga native, baka maging way yun para hindi nila makontrol ang mga Pilipino. abolition of tithing naman, dahil nga duty or obligation nila magbigay ng 10% from their agricultural income sa simbahan, na minsan nagiging burden sa kanila kasi nga once na hindi sila nakapagbigay ng tithes sa church, nagiging masama sila sa tingin ng simbahan or tinuturing silang makasalanan. So here are the leaders of Reform movement: Jose Rizal, Graciano Lopez, and Marcelo H. del Pilar. Si Jose Rizal ang sumulat ng novel na Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, na nag-criticize or nag-against sa Spanish rule and Spaniards. In-establish din niya yung La Liga Filipino. It is a secret organization wherein the purpose is to build a new group sought to involve on the people directly in the reform movement. Si Graciano Lopez naman, he founded the newspaper La Solidaridad in Spain. Ito yung dyaryo na naging pangunahing tinig ng kilusang propaganda, na ang purpose ay iparinig sa gobyernong Espanya ang masaklap na kalagayan ng mamamayan sa Pilipinas at upang ibunyag din yung kaliputan ng mga prayle. Si Marcelo H. del Pilar naman, isa siyang journalist. Siya yung naging founder ng Diaryong Tagalog. So, katulad ng La Solidaridad, yung Diaryong Tagalog, ito rin upang maging way or maging boses sa paghingi ng reforma at upang ipabatid sa mga nakakaraming mamamayan ang mga nangyayari sa bansa. It also evidenced that the reform ay hindi talaga naging successful. But here is the Andres Bonifacio who did something great to take drastic step toward a revolution. So, he founded the Katipunan, which is yung Katipunan, may structure siya ng government, may election procedure din silang ginagawa, may mga defined membership, may symbol sila and flag, and merong code of duties and obligation. Meron din silang publication. So, Andres Bonifacio founded the Katipunan with the principle of self-help, defense of the weak and the poor, and for independence of the country. So, siya yung naging haligi ng organization na to. And si Emilio Jacinto, siya yung naging brains ng Katipunan or utak ng Katipunan. So, they planned for the Philippine Revolution in 1895. But on August 1986, Katipunan was discovered by the Spaniard dahil sa isang pasaway na native Katipuneros na nag-confess ng secret sa isang pare. Then, on August 23, 1896, naganap yung pagpunit ng kanilang sedulas, and what is now is the Cry of Pugadlawin. Then August 30, Bonifacio's men attacked the powerhouse of the Spaniards sa San Juan del Monte, pero napabalik sila ng mga Spaniard and Filipino soldiers under the rule of Spaniards. So, yung lawak ng uprising sa iba't ibang lugar sa Luzon, nag-push sa Spanish rule na mag-declare ng martial law with provision na not to prosecute those who will surrender within 48 hours after the publication ng decree. So, maraming Pilipino ang nag-surrender, pero hindi pa rin nawala yung persecution, kundi lalo pa itong lumala. So, sa persecution, kabilang doon si Jose Rizal noong August 30, 1896, he was prosecuted in military tribunal and was executed. Sa revolution, hindi talaga nagkakaroon ng maayos na revolt. So, nagkaroon ng struggles sa leadership sa revolution. So, si Emilio Aguinaldo na mayor ng Kawit, Cavite, mas naging kilala dahil sa mga success na pakikipaglaban. So, including doon yung natalo niya si General Ernesto de Aguirre. So, two factions emerged in Katipunan or two groups ang nabuo. So, ang Magdiwang and Magdalo. Ang Magdiwang ay pro-Bonifacio at ang pro-Aguinaldo naman ay yung Magdalo. So, Aguinaldo was elected president and Bonifacio is director of interior at the Tejeras Convention. So, while Bonifacio was being proclaimed, Daniel Tirona questioned Bonifacio's qualification, which led Bonifacio to nullify the election result in his capacity as Supremo of Katipunan. So, sa meeting sa Tejeros and Naik, bumuo ng isang grupo si Bonifacio na tinawag niyang Magdiwang. So, yung pagbuo niya ng grupong yon ang nag-lead kay Aguinaldo to arrest Bonifacio dahil sa reason na he tried for treason. Hindi lang ang Spaniard ang naging mananakop ng Pilipinas. So, nung nagkaroon ng relationship between Spain and United States noong 1897, nagkaroon ng revolution sa Cuba in the Philippines. Hindi naman talaga gusto ng Spaniard na makipaglaban sa United States, pero nung yung American battleship Maine was blown up in Havana on February 15, 1898, nag-decide yung United States na magkaroon ng war on Spain. Si Commodore George Dewey was ordered to proceed to Manila from Hong Kong to destroy the Spanish fleet. So after the contract with American agents who told him that he should fight the Spaniard and that American had no interest in the Philippines, wala naman talagang interest yung mga Amerikano na sakupin ng Pilipinas, Aguinaldo returned on May 19, 1898. So nakilala niya doon si Dewey sa Olympia. Wala namang agreement na pinirmahan sila between them. In the value of $20 million, natapos yung rehimeng Spanish and doon na nagsimula ang American occupation. So, yung mga naging warning nila Artemio Ricarte, Mariano Noriel, and Pio del Pilar ay naging totoo na. Dapat hindi pinagkatiwalaan ni Emilio Aguinaldo yung mga Amerikano. In consolidating Filipino forces against the American, so on May 24, 1898, Emilio Aguinaldo established the dictatorship that superseded the Republic of Biak na Bato. June 12 naman, 1898, he proclaimed the Philippine independence kasama yung national anthem composed by Julian Felipe and the flag made in Hong Kong by Marcela Abancillo. On June 23, from dictatorial government, naging revolutionary government. And the Congress was convened in Malolos at the Borosoanan Church on September 15. Si Pedro Paterno ang naging president ng Malolos Congress. So pressure groups influence the issuance of the benevolent assimilation na ipinoproclaim na yung Pilipinos or ang Pilipinas ay under the colony of the US. Nagkaroon ng tension between American and Filipino soldiers, and ayun yung naging reason para magkaroon ng Filipino-American War. For the specific reason, American soldier shot a Filipino soldier on the Balsahan Bridge in San Juan del Monte. So, the American won one encounter after another at pinatapon si Aguinaldo sa norte.
The next one is the Twilight for Emilio Aguinaldo. On the latter part in 1899, nagkaroon ng tensyon sa pagitan ng mga Amerikano at ng mga Pilipino, na kung saan may isang American soldier, binaril niya yung isang Filipino soldier sa may bridge, sa may Balsahan, San Juan del Monte. At dito na nag-umpisa ang Filipino-American War. During this time, during American period, dito na rin bumagsak yung pamamahala o regime ni Aguinaldo. Sa Aguinaldo ay pinush sa may palanan Isabela noong September 6, 1900. On the latter part naman sa may Visayas region, nasakop na rin ito ng mga Amerikano. Sa may bandang Mindanao, sa may Hulo, yung mga Muslim at yung American ay nagkaroon ng agreement for the rights of Sultan. Ang nagtitake ng responsibility na protektahan si Aguinaldo during American occupation ay si Gregorio del Pilar. Si del Pilar ay namatay during American War sa may Biak na Bato. On April 1, 1901 naman, si Aguinaldo ay nahuli at dito na rin siya nanumpa ng loyalty and commitment sa mga Amerikano. During the time na na-occupy na ng Amerika yung Pilipinas, American took step to rule the Philippines during that time. Si President William McKinley ay nag-establish ng 2 commission. Ang unang commission ay yung Sherman Commission, or also known as the Philippine Commission, and he appointed Dr. Jacob Gerald Sherman to study the condition and the situation of the Philippines, make a recommendation, and also help to assist govern the Philippines during that time. Sherman Commission stressed out the U.S. sovereignty over the Philippines, o yung kapangyarihan na mag-rule over yung Amerika sa Pilipinas during that time. Self-government by the Filipino, o kung saan yung mga Pilipino ang mamumuno. Grant of civil rights of the people, wherein civil right is equal opportunity and protection under the law regardless to the race, religion, and other characteristic. Promotion of general welfare, including here the poverty, housing, food, other economic and social welfare. Wherein the Executive Department of the Philippines created the Copper Law, or also known as the Philippine Act of 1902. Granted the Bill of Rights of the Filipino, including here the right to live, acquire property, and also the right and freedom of expression. Wherein on October 16, 1907, the official elected, and the election was end on July 30, 1907. The host of this event was Sergio Esmeña as one of the speaker, and Manuel Quezon as the majority floor leader during that time. The next one is the American tutelage in the governance. Pag sinabi kasi nating tutelage, ito yung guardianship ng mga Americans. Wherein yung mga Americans kasi ay nakafocus sa Philippine society through public education. Wherein sila yung nag-influence sa atin to adopt education. And also, American yung unang nagpadala ng mga guro para magturo sa mga Pilipino. Tinatawag silang Thomasites. Ang mga Thomasites ay mga guro na galing Amerika na pinadala sa Pilipinas upang turuan yung mga Pilipino. At ang mga tinuturo ng mga Thomasites sa mga Pilipino ay ang literacy, arts at saka English language. Yung secondary level naman ay nag-expand during that time at yung mga babae ay pwede nang ma-admit sa tertiary level. The Philippine legislature create the Jones Law of 1961 na kung saan inaapela nila yung official declaration ng Philippine independence during that time. And also nagkaroon din nakapag-create sila ng 3 branches of government. Ang una ay yung executive o yung governor general o yung president. Sila yung nag-i-enforce o nag-i-implement ng law. The next one is the legislature. Ito naman yung House of Representative or the Congress, o ito naman yung mga senador. Sila naman yung mga gumagawa ng batas. The last one is the judiciary, wherein ito yung Supreme Court or lower court na kung saan ito yung mga judge. Sila naman yung nag-i-interpret ng law. For example, kaya tayo may mga hearing dito sa Pilipinas kasi kasi tinitignan ng judge kung meron bang nilabag na batas yung hinatulan dun sa korte. As of November 15, 1935, kung saan pinasa na yung new bill, which is yung Tyding-McDuffie Law or the Philippine Independence Act or the Philippine Commonwealth, which is inaalaw na all establishment of the Commonwealth of the Philippines, which is a 10 years period of peace transition to full independence. Sa Commonwealth din naganap yung election na under pa din siya ng Tyding-McDuffie Law na kung saan naging president si Manuel L. Quezon, si Sergio Osmeña as a vice president, and Manuel Rojas as president of the Senate. Na kung saan nagkaroon ay inano din nila yung mga gains to improve the Philippine Commonwealth. Una na dito yung expansion of foreign trade, yung export and import of goods throughout the country, development of road system, pagpapagawa ng mga tulay, kalsada, improve public health, mga improve facilities sa mga hospitals, libreng gamot sa mga mahihirap, parang ganun. Number 3, expanded public school system. Number 4, development of the armed force, improve of inter-island shipping, widening of civil service for Filipino, and development of radio and telecommunication, and promotion of civil liberties. Ito yung mga gains na prinomote ng mga leaders ng Commonwealth. During the time of Commonwealth era, it was interrupted kasi sinakop na ng Japanese yung Philippines. Na kung saan nagsimula yung World War II noong December 7, 1941, kung saan dito ay sa pilitang binomba ng mga Hapon ang Maynila at sa pilitang pumasok at sinakop ang Pilipinas noong January 2, 1942. Si Osmeña at saka si Quezon ay nag-evacuate at na-exile sa US, headed by General Douglas MacArthur. December 30, 1942 naman, dito na dito na nila ginanap ulit yung second term o pangalawang termino ng mga officials. April 9, 1942, ito yung bumagsak yung Bataan at nasakop na ito ng mga Hapones. April 6, 1942 naman, dito na nasakop o sumurrender ang Pilipinas sa mga Hapon. Sa hindi kalaunan, nireorganize ng Japanese government yung mga subject o nag-add sila ng subject nila under the Japanese Military Command. Ang inad nila ay ang Japanese language, to develop love for work and emphasis science, technology, and agriculture in tertiary education. Dito na rin persahang ininstall yung puppet government sa Maynila na pinangangunahan ni Jose P. Laurel as a president, na tinatawag itong Second Philippine Republic, na inaugurate noong October 14, 1943. Noong August 1 naman, 1944, dito ay ito yung araw kung saan namatay si Quezon dahil sa sakit na tuberculosis. July 4, 1945 naman, ni-reestablish na ito ni Osmeña kasi nga namatay na si Quezon. Siya na yung na-appoint as a president. At dito na rin also dineclare ni Douglas MacArthur yung liberation ng Philippines from Japanese, yung kalayaan ng Pilipinas sa pang-aalipin ng mga Hapon. September 2, 1945, dito na sumurrender yung mga Hapon sa kamay ng Amerika.
Next is the Third Republic. So this was July 4, 1946. So during this time, Philippines is an independent country and it marks the beginning of the Third Republic. So during that time, the country's president is Manuel Rojas. So the fifth Philippine president, but the first president in the new independent republic. So remember, during 1941, Japan invaded Philippines. So for almost 3 years, sinakop din tayo ng mga Hapones. So the two events, World War II and the Japanese occupation in the Philippines, it really brought great damage to infrastructure and livelihood ng bansa natin. So during this time, nasa depression ang ating ekonomiya. So after Manuel Rojas as the president in the Third Republic, so marami pang mga sumunod sa kanyang mga presidente na namuno din sa bansa natin bago si Ferdinand Marcos. But then, let's focus on Ferdinand Marcos and sa mga next na presidents sa kanya. So, the presidents rise and fall. So, Ferdinand Marcos was elected as president on November 1965. So, si Ferdinand Marcos, mahaba din yung panahon na ginugol niya para pamunuan yung Pilipinas. So, na-elect siya as president, tas na-re-elect ulit. So, ito yung pinaka hindi natin makakalimutan na kung saan Marcos declared the so-called martial law. So, this law is to fight against violence and then criminality, graft, corruption, and so on. The declaration of martial law was under Proclamation 1081. It was on September 21, 1972. So, ayun, yung sobrang limited ng mga ginagawa ng tao, participation ng tao, bawal ka mag-against sa government, at marami pang iba. So, despite sa pagiging magaling ni Marcos, the masses or the people, nagkaroon pa rin ng hate sa kanya. So, yun na yung beginning ng EDSA Revolution or known as the People Power. Tsaka, si Marcos din ay napagkamalan na siya yung siya yung mastermind ng assassination nung husband ni Corazon Aquino. Ayun. And then, next naman kay Marcos is si President Aquino. So, si Corazon Aquino. So, the first woman president in the Philippines. So, nag-survive siya ng several takeovers or kumbaga maraming mga lumalaban sa kanya pero lagi pa rin siyang panalo. It was because of her great personality or great personal popularity and widespread international support. So, kilala siya that time kaya lagi siyang nananalo. So, of course, nag-fail din yung term niya due to economic conditions kasi during this time nagkaroon ng great or yung parang devastated earthquake, tapos pumutok pa yung Mount Pinatubo, so talagang yung economy is bumaba, tapos marami ring sa kanya parang accusations na siya sa weak leadership, corruption, and more. Tapos, doon din nangyari yung sa Menjola Massacre, sa Menjola Street sa Maynila, na kung saan maraming mga students and farmers na namatay. Kasi, nagmarcha sila because they are protesting sa tinatawag nating land reform. So, di ba nga mga farmers? So, pina-fight nila yung karapatan nila and opportunity nila to own the land, para mamuno ng sariling lupa nila, at iba pa. So, during that time, sinasabing ang government is nagkaroon ng lack of action, kaya ang mga tao is nag-protest against President Aquino. So, it was the fall of her administration. And then, next naman na naging president is si Fidel V. Ramos. So, si Ramos naman is na remembered as or bilang nag-remedy ng crisis during that time. Kasi nga dun sa nangyari sa iniwan ni President Aquino. So, sinabi dito na it was remembered for having a stabilized Philippine economy. But then, despite sa pag-remedy niya sa energy crisis, nagkaroon pa yun ng peace between MNLF tsaka military forces. So, meron pa rin mga accusations against him like scandalous transactions such as Amari Deal, yung multi-billion peso land development projects. So, kumbaga, ang dami niyang pera, ang dami niyang ari-arian na nakapangalan sa ibang tao, pero sa kanya naman talaga iyon. So, ayun po. After former President Ramos, so si President Estrada. So, talagang nagkaroon ng pag-asa yung mga tao sa kanya. Di ba nga sa linya niya na nagsabing, era para sa mahirap. So the Filipino citizens are really expecting na mareremedyohan yung hirap, maiahon sa hirap ang bawat Pilipino. So, but then, hindi naman nangyari iyon. So, ayun, as we can see, or naabutan pa naman natin yung balitang ito na si Estrada is na-impeach ng Kongreso dahil sa involvement niya sa mga anomalous transactions. So, yun din yung may kinalaman sa corruption, and so on and so forth. So, si President or former President Estrada siya yung president na may mataas na vote sa lahat ng mga naging presidente. So, after Estrada, so it is now the beginning of Arroyo administration. So, during this time, so si Gloria, ang second woman president of the Philippines. So, during this time, nagiging okay muli yung ekonomiya ng Pilipinas, yung stability ng Philippines. So, this was a time wherein the Philippines was awarded as ng Nobel Prize for their commitment to peaceful transitions of government through people power. So, kaya nga, 'di ba? Kumbaga, naiayos muli ng government yung kalagayan ng Pilipinas in terms of economy, infrastructures, sa mga agriculture, and more. So, ayun. 'Di ba ang next kay Gloria is si Noynoy Aquino III, and then sa present time, it's President Rodrigo Duterte. So, out of those presidents, nakita naman natin kung paano sila tumayo at paano rin sila bumagsak. So, there are various factors naman na nakikita natin. But then, we cannot deny the fact that there is an uncanny sides of the Philippine history, or when I say uncanny, strange or mysterious sides of the Philippine history, especially in politics. For example, si President Marcos, nag-declare siya ng martial law to combat, yun na nga, violence, criminality, corruption. But then, he was disposed as one. So, isa rin siya sa nag-violate ng human rights ng mga tao. Isa rin siya naging sangkot sa mga corruption, 'di ba? Kahit sabihin natin stable ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas that time. And then ito pa, si President Corazon Aquino, 'di ba, namatay yung husband niya. So si Marcos pa nga yung napagkamalan, or it was based on the source na siya yung nagpatay sa husband ni Corazon Aquino. So, but then, nung naging president siya, she wasn't able to unravel or to pinpoint kung sino talaga ang mastermind nung pagpatay sa husband niya. So, diba, those are the strange thing. Kumbaga, bakit minsan hindi natin nagagawang resolbahan ang mga pangyayari or bagay-bagay na nai-encounter natin kahit nasa kamay na natin mismo. And then, this one as well is President Estrada got the highest votes, diba nga, like what I have said a while ago. Siya yung first president among all na kung saan siya yung may pinakamataas na number of votes. But then, he was also the first president to face an impeachment trial. So, kumbaga, ang daming nagmamahal sa kanya, pero ang dami ring ayaw sa kanya. So, 'di ba? Ano ang implication sa ganung bagay na yun? So, no matter how good you are, meron at meron pa rin talagang ayaw sa'yo. Next is, President Gloria, the second woman Philippine president, was the first daughter of a Philippine president, si Diosdado Macapagal, to also rise to the presidency. So, of course, kaya naman niya ginawa ito, it's because of the political influence sa parents niya. So, there are more or tons of strange or mysterious sides of every history in different countries. So, kumbaga, yun yung mga questionables or doubts na makikita natin na nangyayari sa bansa natin. So, as our conclusion, history is such an important subject or course wherein it paints how society, technology, government, and most of all people under environment works then and now, and with this, we can now compare and contrast to understand better and shape our society. Thank you so much.